Here is the letter from this student over at Susquehanna University warning the rest of the campus. It's an open letter to me personally, so I will respond personally. Here's what he says. Dear Mr. Shapiro, I'm a student at Susquehanna University, and a proud one at that. If that name sounds familiar to you, it's because you are scheduled to speak here on March 20th of this year. You were invited by the Young Republicans Club, a young group of people who are by all means reasonable and relatively nice. I've grown up around Republicans all my life. My parents, whom I love very much, are Republicans. There's nothing wrong with level-headed Republicans. A large amount of the people coming to see you speak are not level-headed Republicans. The people I am about to describe should be the kind of scum that gets you riled up when you hear that they dare to claim to belong to the same group as you. Of course, you do not denounce these people, at least publicly, because they are your bread and butter. Okay, so already he's indicting me for denouncing a group of people he hasn't described yet. So, who are these nefarious folks who are showing up to my speeches, supposedly? These evil, cruel people I refuse to denounce? He describes them. Your fan base are people who have sent death threats to the faculty of my school simply because we ran out of tickets for them to see you. Are they? Because if so, they should stop being awful people. Don't send death threats to faculty because you can't see one of my shows. But I don't have any evidence of this, and I have a fairly solid belief that this kid doesn't have a lot of evidence of this either. Like, has he actually tracked down the people who wrote these nasty notes? Does he even have access to those notes? Says, your fan base are the people that are making my friends lock themselves in their rooms on the day that you're here for fear of their lives. Really? My fan base? Because I'm fairly certain that the death threats have been all issued against me, which is why I have to travel with a large security team and why they are now going to spend a bunch of money to bring police officers out there. That ain't my fans. That's the folks over in Antifa or at Susquehanna Rising, which is one of these groups that has claimed that they want to try to shut down the event. By the way, my full expectation is that these are fair weather protesters. It's really cold outside. It's snowing. So if they show up, more power to them. But what? And then he says, your fan base are the same people who went through this campus last year scrawling F free world. F is a slur for gay people. On the sidewalk and drawing swastikas on everything they see. Those are my fans? What in the world? Like, where are you getting this? Do they write Shapiro and then a swastika? Like, are you an idiot? I wear a yarmulke. I'm an Orthodox Jew. I was the leading victim of anti-Semitism on the right in all of Jewish journalism in 2016 from the alt-right. What the hell are you talking about? And I refuse to condemn these people? Again, the whole goal of this article is to make it seem like I am a nefarious fellow because he can't actually find anything nefarious that I've done. Instead, what he likes to do is claim that I am responsible for a bunch of people who I've openly denounced for years. And then he says, I find the last one almost comically hypocritical given the fact that you are a man of Jewish faith. What, I don't condemn people who draw swastikas? What, are you insane? But hey, how many fans of Milo Yiannopoulos do you think are also big fans of any gay people they meet in real life? Well, I'm not going to talk about Milo and his fans. I've been criticizing Milo for 2 years. What the hell? Then he says, this is not to say you are responsible for the actions of your fans. Right, I'm not. And also, if they do bad things, I think they're jackwagons. He says, this is not even to say that these people represent all of your fans. Hell, my little brother's a huge fan of yours. He's far from those monsters I just described. This is, however, to call attention to the fact that if those people are the ones supporting the belief that you espouse, maybe it's time to reevaluate those beliefs. Okay, no, that's not how this works. Okay, just because there are a bunch of people who may be fans of mine and may be jerks does not mean that my belief system is wrong. It means that they're jerks. There are lots of jerks on all sides of the aisle. Okay, I would promise you the people who are rioting across the country in places like Ferguson and Baltimore are fans of Barack Obama's policies. Does that mean that Obama's policies are necessarily wrong? Of course not. In fact, when a Bernie Sanders supporter shot up a congressional baseball game, I was the first one out there saying this is not Bernie Sanders' fault. Right? Why is it Bernie Sanders' fault that there's a nut job who follows his ideas? Okay, if the implementation of your ideas causes death, if the implementation of your ideas causes tyranny, then we can talk about whether your ideas are wrong. But just because some people who agree with you happen to be bad human beings doesn't mean that you are responsible for their evil or that you're a bad human being. This is just a nasty form of guilt by association that the left is associated with. And this is what they're doing. I mean, this is what folks on the left are doing increasingly. Like John Oliver attacking Charlotte Pence. Why? Because she happens to be related to the Vice President of the United States. David Hogg suggesting that anyone who's a member of the NRA is in favor of child death. Like, even when I was on CNN on Sunday with Brian Stelter, there was one point where Stelter said to me, you know, is it really a sin? I was saying you're biased, right? CNN is biased against gun rights. And he said, is it really a sin that we want to stop gun violence? The implication being that if you're in favor of gun rights, you don't want to stop gun violence. And I said, like, what are you talking about? What in the world are you talking about? But again, this is just another demonstration of the radicalism that has overtaken so much of the Democratic Party. Character attacks are first on the list of things to do rather than last on the list of tactics to use. Democratic radicalism has really gotten extreme. Again, these are the same people who are endorsing Keith Ellison, who's endorsing Louis Farrakhan. The same people claiming that my fans are the problem are out there pretending that the heads of the Women's March can hang out with Louis Farrakhan, no problem, and that Keith Ellison, who has nearly made the head of the DNC, is not a problem either. Speaking of Keith Ellison, by the way, he is a career-long anti-Semite with longtime associations with the Nation of Islam's anti-Semite extraordinaire Louis Farrakhan. Well, on Monday, he penned an article at Medium complaining about the media's coverage of connections between top Democrats and Farrakhan. Ellison's article didn't take responsibility for association with and defense of Farrakhan. Instead, he suggested that people like me were attempting to drive a rift between the Jewish and black communities, which is just, like, you endorsed an open anti-Semite because you said that he's for black rights, and then you accuse me of driving a rift between black people and Jewish people. But this is the game, and this is the game that the left is consistently playing. It's quite insane. Right? Ellison says stuff like this. He says, over the last few weeks, some political opponents have been pushing the narrative that I am somehow connected to a man named Louis Farrakhan. It's not true. Really? It's not true? Here's CNN on Keith Ellison's associations. A CNN K-File review of Ellison's past writings and public statements during the late 1980s through the 1990s reveal his decade-long involvement in the Nation of Islam and his repeated defense of Farrakhan and other radical black leaders against accusations of anti-Semitism in columns and statements to the press. That's CNN. It ain't me. Now, Keith Ellison defended Kwame Ture, that would be Stokely Carmichael, in 1990 after Carmichael made a speech stating, quote, Zionism must be destroyed. In 1995, Keith Ellison helped organize an event at which he spoke before Khalid Abdul Muhammad, an anti-Semite so rabid the Nation of Islam kicked him out. That same year, Ellison wrote, quote, Minister Farrakhan is a role model for black youth. He is not an anti-Semite. He said the same thing in 1997. According to the Daily Caller, Farrakhan attended at least 3 meetings with Ellison. Okay, 3, including one in the last couple of years. Farrakhan said on his own show that he met Ellison in Farrakhan's hotel room in December 2016 along with Representative Andre Carson. Okay, but that's not hateful. What's hateful is to point this out. It really is an astonishing thing, and this shows the radicalism of Democrats, and it also demonstrates why they have to make character attacks, because if they're forced to defend their character on this kind of stuff, they're going to fail every single time. Okay, so before we go any further, and I do want to talk about a bevy of issues, including the youth suicide rate skyrocketing over the last decade. I want to talk about Uber's magic self-driving Moonlight, which made like $5 at the box office. Before that, it was Spotlight. Fine movie, completely forgettable. You know, I enjoyed Spotlight. I think Moonlight is a fine film. It was obviously the social justice winner because it was about gay black people in the inner city. Whatever, that's fine, but that's not exactly designed to be a box office busting winner. Okay, Spotlight won the year before that. The year before that, it was Birdman, which I thought was just an execrable film. I just thought it was an awful, awful movie. 12 Years a Slave, which I think is a very good movie, but not obviously one that's going to bust down the box office doors. Right? It's about slavery. It is not a highly entertaining film. I think it's a well-made film. I don't think it's as well-made as, for example, Schindler's List. But 12 Years a Slave is a good movie. But is it like an all-time classic movie? Probably not. Argo, which is completely forgettable now. Do you even remember Argo? I remember when it won. Like, I saw it. It's fine. It's fun. But it's not like Argo is not an important movie. The Artist, right? None of these movies made more than $5 at the box office. The King's Speech was the last really great movie that I think was a big winner at the Oscars. The Hurt Locker was the year before that. Slumdog Millionaire, which did decently at the box office, but won over like The Dark Knight. Are you kidding me? Okay, are you kidding me? It hasn't even, that was 2008. Okay, it's been 10 years. Does anyone even watch Slumdog Millionaire now? It's a fine film. I mean, I enjoyed it, but it's not The Dark Knight. Okay, No Country for Old Men is 2007. That was the last big box office winner that actually did really, really well at the Oscars, was No Country for Old Men. So that was 2007. And before that was The Departed, which, meh. Okay, Crash, the worst movie of all time. Okay, $1 Million Baby, again, okay, but sorry, movies about euthanasia don't exactly blow it up at the box office. And then you get, but by 2003, I think it was really in the Bush era that this happened. 2003, by the middle of the Bush era, you can see the shift for Hollywood. The shift goes from, we are here to make movies that entertain you, to we are here to make movies that are specifically designed to say something important. Because before 2003, all of the movies that were winning were big box office winners. The reason this is important is the people in Hollywood, the people who vote at the Academy Awards, see their role differently. They see their role in life, seriously, as we are here in order to, in order not to make big movies that make lots of money and earn us all enormous paychecks. That's something nice that we do. But what we're really here to do is push the message. And you can see that from the Oscar winners, because before that it was Lord of the Rings, Return of the King. It was Gladiator. It was Shakespeare in Love, which did really well. It was Titanic. It was Braveheart. It was Forrest Gump. It was Schindler's List and Unforgiven. It was Silence of the Lambs. It was Dances with Wolves, right? Every other year, it was a top 5 to top 10 box office movie that was winning. And we haven't had one of those in like 15 years. Okay, there's a reason for that, and it's because Hollywood does have messages it wants to promote. So we're going to talk about some of the messages that they wanted to promote at the Oscars last night. Okay, so here, let's start with this. And I think this says it all. Last night, Emma Watson showed up to the Oscars with a new tattoo. Her new tattoo said on it, "Time's Up." There was only one problem with her tattoo. It did not have an apostrophe. So she actually just has something that says "Time's Up," which doesn't, I don't even know what that means without the apostrophe. So, no regards for Emma Watson on her tattoo. But this was the theme of the Oscars last night. The theme of the Oscars last night were men were bad. Men generally are bad. But here's the thing. Hollywood knows that men are bad. And they're good about this. They get it. They get men are bad, particularly white men. White men are really bad. Okay, white men are terrible. And the way that we know that white men are terrible is because Hollywood, on the one hand, was pushing diversity last night, meaning diversity of skin, not viewpoint, diversity of skin color, diversity of gender. But when it came to men, men, bad men, those people, they're just bad. They're bad people. Right, here's Jimmy Kimmel last night saying, what we really need in America is more men without penises.